Yes, I got my haircut. Yes, I know it's sexy as hell. Can we talk about magic now? Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. Welcome to my video on brawling, y'all. So, we've got some changes coming to Brawl, and you know what, I gotta say, I'm warming up to it. So, let's talk about the changes to Brawl first, for those of you who are interested, and then we're just gonna talk more generally about Brawl overall. So, the changes coming down the pike for Brawl are in the vein of, first of all, they're creating 1 versus 1 Brawl so that you can play straight up one person versus another. It will not have a separate band/rules list the way that Commander works, where you have a different for 1v1 and you have for multiplayer. So Brawl is going to be uniform across the board, 1 versus 1 and also multiplayer, which I like. But the difference will be when you play 1 versus 1, you only use 20 life instead of 30 life, and that's so people can't use the extra life to absorb, basically to absorb time to give control strategies more of an advantage in one-on-one Brawl. So that's why they're doing that. So Brawl will have its own separate banned list from Standard. It's not going to use Standard's ban list. It's going to have its own separate ban list. Now, this has resulted in a bunch of cards coming off of the ban list in terms of Brawl, but a few cards still staying on. Smuggler's Copter still stays on the ban list because it is still a real problem card. And I mean, you look at it. It's going to go into every deck. Now, I like these changes that they're making to Brawl. There is another one that they're making as well, which I think is excellent, and that is for people who want to use colorless legendary creatures like Hope of Gearpoor. What they are doing, or Karn, what they're doing is they're making it so that now you can choose one basic land type, because under like Commander Brawl rules, it worked with that kind of color identity. Oh, are you colorless? Well, you have to have lands that tap for colorless. You can't use any of the regular basic lands. And they were thinking about bringing wastes in as a solution to this, but since wastes aren't in every set and an ongoing thing, that isn't really feasible. So what they've done is they're letting you pick one color that your deck can be aligned with. So if you have a colorless leader for your Brawl deck, you can basically pick blue, red, whatever color you want, but only one. So that's interesting. I like that they're changing it so that it encompasses more options. And the more I thought about Brawl, in honesty, the more I have come to like the concept of it. Basically, I sat down and I started to think to myself, what are my main complaints about Standard? Because Brawl inhabits the same space as Standard. Nothing else, and everything has its own space, right? You've got Legacy, and then you've got Modern, and sure, you can put stuff in Modern that into Legacy because it's already in there, but Legacy is defined by the cards that the other format doesn't have. Same kind of thing. Every format is really defined more by what it doesn't have than what it does have, if you look at it, right? I mean, Standard is defined by not having everything else, even though it really is just the newest stuff. They're all just these exclusionary formats, but Brawl is pretty much the same. The way that Commander and Legacy are almost the same kind of format where almost anything goes, with for a few particular exceptions, Standard and Brawl have the same kind of parallel space that they exist inside of in terms of what cards you're allowed to use. So, one of the main issues that I have with Standard, the biggest one, is how boring it is. Oh God, is it boring. What happens is, obviously, you know, with the net decking and whatever, people want to play what's going to win. There are only so many viable decks that are going to exist when people are coming in with the same things week to week. So, you end up seeing the same decks over and over. On top of that, Magic is a game where you can play with 4 copies of a card, and you will do that because increased redundancy helps you increase the chances of getting the cards you want. So you play the smallest deck possible with the most copies available of each card. So if you're playing a deck that has like 24 lands in it, you only have 36 cards. If you're playing 4 copies of each of those 36 cards, because that's what your deck needs, not all decks are like that, but I'm using this as a base example. So let's say you're playing a deck where everything you have, you want 4 copies of. That means you're only playing with 9 different Magic cards. Literally, your whole deck, other than lands, is 9 different cards. That's nothing. You could put 1 copy of each of the cards in your hand, and your hand would only be like 2 cards bigger than a full normal size starting hand. Like, that's not much variance at all. And obviously that's what you want when you want to try and compete and kill people effectively. But at the same time, holy crap. I mean, when you go to Modern or you go to Legacy, you have at least a little more variation in terms of decks and the specifics, but there's just so few cards to draw on in Standard in the first place, and so little power to go around, that there's only going to be a handful of decks to go around, so you're just going to see the same handful of cards over and over and over. And on top of that, those handful of cards become supremely expensive. I mean, look at Rekindling Phoenix. You want a play set of those for your deck? What are they going to run you? At least $40 a pop, depending on what day of the week it is. So yeah, I mean, you can have a Mythic that you need a play set of for your deck. That'll run you $160 to $200 just to get that one card. Sure, you only need 9 different cards for your deck, but one of those sets of 9 is going to set you back $200 a month's groceries. Like that's insane. So the expense of it combined with it's boring and expensive. Standard is boring and expensive, and it's the entry point for new players. This is where they get in. Like, there's no other cheaper, easier way to get in. Modern is more expensive, but at least it's less dull. Standard is expensive, but it's still the cheapest Magic format that a beginner can start with, aside from Pauper. And Pauper, while it is spread around, it's more of a casual format that there aren't as many events for. So you don't get that kind of support. And so the end result is going to be most people's experience when they start with Magic is going to be standard events. Now, Brawl exists in the same space, looking at the same amount of cards, but it solves both of those main problems, actually. Both of them are alleviated by Brawl. We have the fact that if you're playing a 60 card deck and you have that 24 lands, now the 36 other cards are going to be 36 different cards. That's 4 times the number of different cards just in your deck. And when you spread that out across your opponent's deck and all the other people playing, that is a lot more variance. And with it being built around a legendary creature and people having different concepts, and they're not going to be the same level of... There will obviously always be net decking, and for the 1v1 there will be more net deck-ish kind of stuff going on with Brawl. There will be the better decks, and they will come in and ban them. They did ban a couple of leaders. Brawl is banned in Brawl because he represented 35% of people's decks. He was too powerful and oppressive. So I like that they're doing this. I originally looked at Brawl as a quick cash grab. Honestly, I thought that Brawl was something they were just trotting out for Dominaria. It was just meant to boost Dominaria sales. But after reading the response, I think that their intent was to test the waters with this, see how it goes, and decide if they wanted to put more into it. And they have decided, yes, we do, from the response. And I can see the value in the Brawl format. It gives new people a way to enter into Magic, to enter into the standard format, to also to be able to try Commander without it seeming so daunting. Because for people who haven't been in the game for 25 years like me, who are looking at all the cards that exist, it can be a lot to pick from, right? Like, Commander is a gigantic, sprawling mess of amazing options. And clearly from what I said, I love options. I love variety. But there is a point where you reach decision paralysis, decision anxiety, where there's just too much for new people. So having the shallow end of the pool, where you can start with Brawl with your 60 card standard version of a Commander deck, and then you can ease into the deep end if it turns out, yo, I really genuinely enjoy this. This is another portal for new players to enter Magic, and it's done in an excellent way. Honestly, I'm finding myself more a fan of Brawl than anything. I think that what it brings to the table is useful. It's going to get more cards, more love. It'll be interesting to see what it does to the foil markets, but also it's going to affect design going forward. If you read what they said, they're going to have Brawl commanders in mind, right? You want Brawl to be sustainable every season, which means we're going to have cool legendary creatures coming out for every set now, which I don't feel like we were guaranteed before. And that to me is exciting. Legendary creatures are exciting because they tend to be above the standard power level because of their legendary nature, and they tend to be more flavorful and cool. More effort is putting into making the character because they are not just generic Soldier X. They are Gargmargable, the epic soldier, or whatever. And that, to me, adds an extra dimension. So, personally, I see the changes they're making to Brawl as good. I stand behind this format now, and I think I'm going to give it, I may actually give it a toss. I'll probably just play 1v1 because I do not enjoy multiplayer Magic. I love how people go, multiplayer, it's 2-player, because they're just like, shut up. Obviously, everybody knows when you say multiplayer, we mean 3 players and more. So one-on-one is more my style. That's how it goes in sex and Magic. One-on-one, baby. Keep your friends out of this. Leave your friend Gary at home, all right? That's how this works. So, thanks for coming by. No Gary's in my bedroom. I'll see you later.
Hey everybody, this is the Blind Hypno Dragon. All hail Hypno Dragon. And I just want to say together, we are the sixth color of magic. God, I can't say, I hope I'm taping this right.